Okay, so here is a short little primer video on kind of just a few different ways that you could actually watch back your tape to know what you're going to be looking for, to know what notes you want to take down, so you could actually kind of use this as a bit of a kind of a basic guide on how to watch tape. So you're going to be watching me show you how to watch yourself. So here's a set I played very recently with Mobius QB. I believe here I turned the inputs on because this is something I had already recorded for my own review. So, right off the bat, there's a few things that you could do. So, the worst way you could watch is just watch it maybe while you're washing the dishes or while you're just waiting for something, while you're eating. You want to be paying very good attention. You want to be very active. You're going to be doing what is the video version of being an active listener. You want to ideally be taking down notes. At the very least, you want to be coming away with this with something that you could review. So there's a few ways you can do that. So the nuclear way, and this is something that I'm not going to be doing right here myself, but it is something that I recommend you do at least every now and then. Maybe every so often you'll feel like, okay, I feel like I kind of hit a plateau. I'm not really getting better. Where do I go from here? Because this is very time consuming, but I do recommend that you go through and write down pretty much every single interaction that happens in the match. So you want to write down not necessarily just every hit that you got or every exchange, but you want to write down everything. So every hit that you got, how did you get that hit? Every time you get hit, why did you get hit? Is there something you could have been doing about it? And every time an interaction happens, so let's say I do a DP on my wake up and it works 3 out of 7 times. You're going to want to write that down. So put DP successful 3 times, just put like a little X3 or X4, X whatever. On the other list, on the other side of the list, you're going to have DP on wake up did not work, X whatever. Again, X4, X5, however many times that happened. So this is a recommendation that was given to me by Mandy Phoenix. And it is very, very useful because it is very time consuming. By the end of the review, you're going to have a laundry list of essentially 2 things. You're going to have a list of things that you are doing that are working out well. You're going to have a list of stupid things you are doing that are not working out well. And the ideal is to work on that list, and you want to add a lot more things into column A and remove a lot of things from column B. Ideally, column B becomes smaller as column A becomes larger. You're adding more effective tools, you're getting rid of tools that don't work. The other thing that is a little bit more casual than that, it's going to be a little bit less time consuming, still very, very hands-on, but something you want to do is obviously you want to take away key points. So something that for this set that I already did was I wrote down a few different situations where I feel like maybe I'm not maximizing my ability. Maybe I'm struggling in this department for so-and-so reasons. So for this set, this is a longer set. I believe we played 30 games, 30. We're not going to go over that. We're just going to do a quick first to 2. But some notes I wrote down was that I did not use enough 6-6 light kick. And the reason I'm writing down these notes is not just because I'm just going to write that down saying, oh, this is a flaw I have, I'll work on that later. That's pretty ineffective. At least for me, I personally found that kind of just writing down an issue you have doesn't by itself alleviate that issue. It's like, okay, I know this is a problem I have, and then what? So what I did for this set was I wrote down little ways to fix that. So ideally, you want to write down 2 to 3 solutions for any given issue that you notice in your play. So one of the things I noticed was that I was playing a little bit too impatient. I was doing too many super jumps in neutral in spots where they would be very ineffective. Okay, so that's the problem. The solutions I wrote down here was I could start walking up more just out of the opponent's ideal range, kind of just to gauge whatever their reaction would be. Whether they're going to poke, are they going to go straight into IAD, are they going to do float for this situation, since obviously I'm fighting a QB. The other thing I could be doing is I could be doing micro dashes to get in, starting pressure without overcommitting to a long dash. That's something that could get me poked out. So these are going to be things that are specific to my character. Obviously, not every character is going to have a macro dash the same way Lilith is. Not every character is going to be trying to approach from the ground. So these are solutions that I can start implementing into my play. And then if I see that maybe I could do more of A or more of B, maybe B is a little more effective in certain situations, maybe A is more effective in certain situations, those are going to be things that I'm developing on. Ultimately, what you're trying to do here is that you're trying to implement changes. So the worst thing you could do is watch a VOD and then just acknowledge you have problems and just keep doing the same stupid shit over and over again. If you do that, then obviously you're just not really going to get better. Ultimately, that VOD review was a waste of time if you came across with the problems and don't bother at all to find solutions. So that was a little preamble beforehand. So let's go ahead and actually look at this. So here, something I can write down just right off the bat. I'm playing a little bit of aggressive. I could see some of the habits that my opponent is developing. And again, this is something that you want to do, even if you're not necessarily watching a VOD just to study one specific opponent. Typically, that's something people do during tournament season, like preparing for a big tourney. But it's something that you could do to see how does a player of so-and-so level react to so-and-so option I'm throwing at them. So here I did a pretty small jump in at the very start. I see that Mobius has push blocked that. Pretty immediately, and right here I could see that after that push block, playing pretty calm, QB's just kind of walking up, not really overcommitting to an option. So here's something that I can write down as my notes. If something that I'm struggling with is I'm getting pushed out, losing out too much pressure, is once I get pushed out, I can try to continue to maintain offense by going for a dash in or going for a jump in if I'm seeing that the QB is maybe a little bit more eager. Let's go on the flip side. Say I'm getting push blocked very often and I'm playing not Mobius, I'm playing somebody who goes for turbo IEDs, like maybe I'm playing snuggle guns and the moment I get push blocked, immediately IED pressure. If that's something that I'm struggling and I see in when I'm reviewing that VOD that it's something I'm struggling with, I can write down that as a problem. I can write solutions. Maybe I want to go for a back or a neutral jump to mess up QB's IED timing. Maybe I want to go for a DP if I'm noticing that the ranges at which QB's push blocking me is a little bit closer, something that I can actually hit with my DP. So let's continue here. We're just playing a little bit of poking. This is also a bit of a kind of just a general tape review. So going into some of the options that I'm going to be giving. So this is kind of both things, kind of going into my process of what specifically I look for, kind of giving you a live ball scenario, so a real time demonstration, as well as kind of giving you into some of the guidelines that I could try to recommend that you implement. Again, maybe you have your own method of reviewing VODs, but some people don't, and if maybe somebody needs a bit of a starting out point, hopefully this vid is a little bit helpful for that. So here's just neutral. I get that hit, and I don't like the range. 2 heavy punch, obviously something that is negative on hit. So I don't really get to start pressure out of that. I go for a soul flash, kind of trying to make sure that Mobius doesn't also try to start pressure out of that. So I see Mobius is going to be content to kind of just hang back and poke safely. So that gives me an opportunity to start up my own pressure. I go for just some safe medium kicks here. At that point, I feel that Mobius is probably going to be trying to be up back to get out of my pressure. So I go for a jump in, try to OS with the throw, something that obviously I like to do very often, if you've ever played me before. I end up getting the air reset, and because we traded, I don't really have any frames to pressure with. So here, I'm just playing neutral. So at this point, we're still playing neutral, but because Mobius has been playing a lot more defensively, though this is the downside with playing a bit of a more lamer B, is that eventually if you don't really, even through push block, if you don't really turn that push block into your own offensive advantage, then eventually you're still going to get push block into the corner. So here we have a cornered QB, I get an IOH. I don't really capitalize off anything there. Here we get our trade, and because I got the trade, I'm starting to feel that maybe Mosius' push block timing has been a little bit rattled. Typically, whenever somebody gets hit, their timing is going to be thrown a lot off key. You're kind of messing up their defensive rhythm. So there is a little bit more of a likelihood that they're going to eat your oncoming mix-up. Obviously, Lilith being a character that has very limited mix-up, all of her mix-up is timing Zarashi based. So here I just went for a 2 medium kick into 2 heavy punch with a little bit of a stagger to see if Mobius would bite that. Mobius does not. So it would have pushed me out of the corner, but here a little bit of a misplay. Mobius ends up eating that Soul Flash. And here's something that I've started implementing recently, and I highly recommend you try to watch back tapes, especially after you have introduced something new into your play. It's something that's going to come up later, but you can see right here, this little 4-4 light punch is something that I literally introduced within this set. I'd never started really doing this before, but trying to micro dash to manage my movement a lot more. Previously, what I probably would have done here, and this is evident in the previous set I played with Mobius, is probably go for a up back. And there's a very good chance that that up back would have gotten sniped by QB's 5 medium punch. Here we have the opposite scenario. This is an option that I believe after experimenting with and implementing to my play, and here you can kind of see that I'm kind of doubling down with that by reviewing it in VOD and seeing that yes, this is effective. It just needs a little bit more refinement. Is that an option such as for Lilith, micro dash, 4-4 light punch to kind of regain space, trying to stay out of B's kill zone wherever she just run a mix of IEDs and safe flows on you. I can see 4-4 light punch is very good. So here we're back to neutral. This is fine. I do have the spacing advantage because QB is close to the corner. So I'm a little bit more content to just kind of chill out, hang out a little bit more, kind of just let her hang to me, especially because I have the life lead. So here I see that jump in, I go for a throw, and it doesn't really matter that she's tagged. I know that my throw is advantageous on tech. So you can see that there, I narrowly beat out QB's button. Because I did that, I'm able to maintain a little bit of better frame advantage than I would otherwise have, so I'm able to go for another kind of a little bit of a greedy medium kick. Mobius is obviously going to push block that one, and here my option to cover that, because at this point I've already seen that Mobius isn't necessarily looking to rush down the moment that they get an opportunity such as a push block. I'm going to go for something that's going to let me try to stay in. This was a note I previously mentioned, that had this been giving me a problem, this is a potential solution I could have gone. Jump in immediately after a push block. Here I don't catch anything with the jumping light punch, but I do catch something with the 2 heavy punch. I do miss the life here. Just a little bit too slow on that. But I still have the corner QB. And here, to go into a little matchup specific thing, QB is one of the characters that cannot immediately punish this. She doesn't get a true punish on our tech throw corner. Some characters can, but here, because of the spacing that QB ends up, I know that I can keep going for a throw and it's always going to be weighted in my favor. This throw, as you can see in just a little bit, it beats a few things. It beats QB pressing a button. It also beats QB going for an up back. So you can see right here. So given how little health Mobius had in this situation, I'm pretty confident that within 2 tags, maybe 3, that QB is going to go bye-bye anyways. So it's an option that I'm kind of focusing on right now. It does obviously have counterplay, but that counterplay I have gauged to not necessarily be a significant detriment to de-incentivize me from going for this option. So here I mess up. Another note that I actually took for this set, I took the notes ahead of time because obviously I've already watched this already. But an issue I noticed is that I'm not really getting that much on my Oki outside of the corner. So a situation that I came up with to alleviate this is to go for better tricky walks, and this is something that I've worked on, still working on. I don't think it's really ready for the kitchen just yet. But one of the things I commented on is I'm getting poor oaking. Two of the solutions I came up with is that I should be staggering my buttons on my oki. You could see that Mobius is really good at push blocking on their wake up. Obviously, the solution to this, given that Lilith is a Zarashi based character, all of her mix-up is Zarashi, a solution to this is going to be to delay my presses on QB's wake up. Another solution to this problem of not getting much out of Oki is introducing the tricky walks to set up some left-right whenever QB has knockdown. So here, you can see me eating IED pressure. Mobius resets to not really overextend themselves. Obviously, Lilith being a DP character, QB does crouch her DP, but it is still able to hit her out of an IED. Mobius trying to position themselves here, out of that DP range. Ends up whiffing, and I go for a jump, kind of to cover another IED approach. And at this point, we're back to neutral. I kind of rebuild a little bit of positioning. You can see this little dash dance here. So again, this is something that I newly started implementing as I play. But I do this specifically here to kind of try to poke out of a jump. Obviously, Lilith having really no anti-gears that are effective at that are effective. You kind of have to go with the little you have. So one of the things I've been seeing beforehand is that I could sometimes poke people out with a 6-6 MK or a 6-6 medium punch here in the spacing where the opponent already throws a button. So I kind of delay my press to catch the recovery of the button. Here I'm a little bit mistimed. QB had already recovered. However, she doesn't really have the frames. Obviously, whenever the character has a button out, there's a little bit of a window whenever they're about to land where they can no longer press a button and where the jumping button that they did have has been deactivated. In this situation, obviously, even though I missed the air reset, I'm still able to maintain an advantage. Here I call out the standing animation. I could kind of tell, simple because what else would QB be doing standing up here when she crouches all over buttons if we're standing? Here I could tell that she's probably going to be going for an up back. The moment I see her standing, I press medium punch, and my guess was correct. I get an air reset. So because of that, QB's pushed further into the corner. And here is where I'm able to get real mix up. I messed out a lie. That's fine. I'm able to overcorrect that and correct that and get a knockdown here. And here is where my problem once again starts with the Oki. Is that I went for pretty much the same exact option I did previously. If you remember, recall between the round, I went for a side swap to stay on the left-hand corner of the screen and go for a meaty. In that situation, I'd actually mistimed the meeting before I turned around. In this situation, I timed the meaty correctly, but I didn't really get anything out of it because I'd already showcased that that was an option I'm willing to go. I'm not properly mixing up my offensive maneuvers whenever I have a knockdown. Here, Mobius misses the push block, and because misses the push block, I'm able to maintain advantage. I do overextend myself with that greedy dash in after that meeting kick. That's a button that I know doesn't have a lot of frame advantage, so ultimately it's just an incorrect guess. I kind of wanted him to continue holding pressure a little bit more. Obviously, that didn't happen. It's not a huge loss. I just get interrupted, and I'm still off the corner. So at this point, back up a little bit. So here I get hit. At this point, something that I know just from playing Mobius quite a bit is that they typically like to do 5 medium punch around this range. And one of the options that we have as Lilith to beat that is to heavy punch. So here, this would probably lose to an IED, but I kind of estimate that like, okay, QB is probably not going to be IEDing. Mobius hasn't really been showing that they're very IED happy and neutral. They're mainly doing it after they get an air reset or after a knockdown. So here, it's probably going to want to fight medium punch, so I'm going to do this to beat that option preemptively. And it works. And here, at this point, I'm kind of predicting that QB is going to want to do something like a flow or maybe just a jump to try to maneuver their way out of the corner. At this point, they're sitting at a pretty substantial deficit. They really, really want to get out of this corner where they've pretty much been stuck most of this match. So I go for a soul flash preemptively. I was a little bit too early on that. Mobius had actually tried to anti-air here and then jumps after I do the soul flash. I am able to walk back out of that, which is something else I've been trying to implement in my play, just walking back a lot more. Typically, previously I had kind of dismissed the option a little bit, since like, well, I don't really want to be giving up space, but it's better to give up space and have them whiff, because now I'm at a frame advantage, even though they I'm at a frame advantage because they have to go through a landing, and that gives me a little bit of time to try to set something up. So here, even though it doesn't work out, you can see that I eat a stagger. I didn't press my button quick enough. I'm able to defend against the IED. I'm not sure what I was doing with this OLI. Okay, I see what I did. Doesn't really work out. I was a little bit too slow on that. It's fine, I do get the knockdown. It's not the end of the world. So here, you can see an adaptation from Mobius. Here I get air resets. And Mobius, having just experienced the same interaction before, where I eat a 5 medium punch and I immediately punish a second 5 medium punch with 2 heavy punch, is aware of that, so it goes for an option that would safely beat my 2 medium punch. This is a lot safer than an IED, because QB isn't risking eating a DP that would immediately eliminate the entire positioning advantage she just secured for herself. This is a safe play from Mobius, but it is a rewarding play. So here I go for another 2 heavy punch. And a soul flash to kind of try to keep her out. And here, this is ultimately just what I would consider a bad play. Mobius is just completely just chilled out here. Just sitting away, half screen away from me, just watching me whiff all these options. I don't ultimately get punished for it immediately, but it is just generally not play I necessarily want to do. I could definitely do something a lot better here than this random walk up 6-2-3, which doesn't really do anything for us. So here I'm still cornered. Probably gotta... Ooh, maybe I actually mistimed that. So I got a little bit safe there. Got a little bit lucky there. But I'm still cornered. And here I'm trying to maneuver my way out. I've been eating stagger after stagger. I finally get some room for myself here. The 2 medium punch. And here I am immediately forced into a guess. Obviously QB having the best mix-up in the game is a problem whenever you're on the defender's end of this. And here I have to guess. Mobius does overextend and corrects with that by not doing an IED here. So they probably did not like the positioning they were at. The spacing they were at was maybe a little bit too close, and they probably wanted to bait the DP. Ultimately, I decided not to do that. I could kind of tell, because Mobius probably didn't want to overshoot this much, that they would not be going for an IED here. So I kind of just go for the guess on the blocking, and I'm able to get out that way. So now we're back to neutral. QB pretty close to the corner, and that leak is going to seal the deal. This is something that Mobius has started doing recently, by the way, these little 8 hops in neutral. It's a lot harder to deal with, so a point of, let's just say an issue that Mobius would have in some of our previous sets is they would be very content to just down back and ultimately either get forced to eat a really, really difficult cross-up, or maybe they just mistime the anti-air whenever I go for a super jump in or I jump in. This is an adaptation to that, so it's not just eliminating the opportunity I have to jump in, because obviously a jump is extremely good at working against jump-ins, but it also makes QB a lot more difficult to approach. Mobius has a few options here out of this float. So here, you can just ascend with the button. You can do that to control space. Something that we don't see here, but there's also an option QB has on the table, is an IED here. Like right here, where I whiffed the 6-6 medium punch. Had QB... Wow, I'm surprised I didn't hit. Really? Okay. Thank you, game. Right here, had QB been in the air a little bit before that, then I would have eaten an IAD here, almost certainly into a CR confirm, and probably had to guess for my life after that with the Honey Oki that Mobius has been very fond of lately. Obviously, my counterplay to that is that I kind of need to thread the needle and try to catch her either while she's landing or while she's ascending if the QB gets a little too predictable with the 8 jumps. So here, again, similar interaction to what happened earlier. At this range, I'm pretty confident Mobius really likes to press my medium punch. I don't want my dashing to get interrupted, so I want to get something here, knowing that I have that prediction. So I go for a heavy punch. Immediately after, just a soul flash to cover space in case Mobius wants to jump in. Again, I'm a little bit too early on that, which is fine. I don't immediately get punished for it. Just kind of back to neutral. And this is a interaction. So that is an accident. I've been linking a lot of Mary turns because my D-pad just doesn't work really well. So here I'm forced to guess. I eat this delayed sweep, and Mobius actually overshoots here. This is a bit of an issue QB could sometimes have because her IAD auto homes in on the opponent. She can sometimes get these really stinky IADs where she'll either go a million miles in the wrong direction, like she'll go up if you're in a jumping position, where she obviously doesn't really get much mix-up, or this could happen where she just completely whips and you don't really have time to press a button. You could see Mobius actually did hit a button, but just didn't have the frames to actually let it come out. Here I miss my link into the second 2 life punch, but I do go once again for a soul flash. This time I timed it correctly, and Mobius had to chicken block that and get stuck playing a pretty stinky guessing game where they guess wrong and I get this So here, this is a bad decision on my part. This is something that works on every single character except QB because she just scratches it. And you could see me try to overcorrect for that with a dash in when I realized that I have made a tremendous error. And obviously I get hit out of that because, well, what else would QB do? Like, she's obviously not going to stand up and press F5 medium punch. She's obviously not going to jump. This is just really poor decision making on my part on both fronts. Both the fireball there that I know just isn't going to hit her, as well as the follow-up dash to try to cover for that fireball, which when I know that Mobius is almost certainly going to do a 2 medium punch or maybe even a sweep or something of that sort that will low profile the fireball and is obviously going to interrupt my dash because I don't have the frames for it. And here, after that, I go for a 2 heavy punch, again predicting that Mobius is going to go for a 5 medium punch to try to anti-air me or stop my ascent. I end up whiffing the 2 heavy punch because Mobius correctly guessed that I would do that. I don't end up eating that jump in. Mobius has a little bit mistimed on that. It's a little bullshit that happens sometimes. Characters are crouching and your jump in no longer hits at the timing it should have hit. So here we're back to neutral. I do ultimately lose this game. I do remember. This is a bit of a risky decision here. I'm predicting that Mobius is going to want to snipe me with the 5 medium punch. A very, very common defensive tactic against QB is up back. Again, because it'll mess up the auto homing in on her dash. Here, that's not what ends up happening. So I end up getting this 2 heavy punch blocked. I am at a bit of a frame disadvantage. Not a significant one though, so I'm still pretty confident where I could go for a soul flash to kind of cover space. Given the spacing QB is right here, this is the spacing that I know Mobius is pretty comfortable going for an IED. I try to go for that, I end up catching the 5 medium punch. Because of that, I have a little bit of frame advantage, so I'm able to go and press my offense here. And here we're going to see this actually work out in my favor for once. This is the 3rd time I've gone for the option. Here it does work. It also works here. Unfortunately, this is a bad decision on my part as well. Here, I very much know that this isn't going to hit. There's no reason for me to go for a full chain here. I could have gone for a 2 light kick, to heavy punch, or even just the harder confirm, which later on you'll see that I miss if you watch this full VOD very often, so it's probably not something I should be pulling out. But I should have definitely just taken any damage here instead of going for a very greedy ally that is just never gonna hit. And that ultimately is going to cost me the game. So here, you can see me trying to scramble. Again, it's a player error. It's a player weakness that I typically try to overexert pressure whenever I miss an ally. So here you can see me miss every push block there. And here, I'm kind of just pressing buttons. At this point, I do finally chill out. It's a little bit too late. It's a little too late. I am in the corner, and I'm still kind of, not necessarily full on panicking, but I am definitely trying to press my offense when I think it shouldn't be. So this whole interaction here. Let's see all the stupid shit I did here. So here, as I mentioned earlier, typically whenever players get hit, their rhythm gets thrown off balance, and they're more likely to miss a falling push block. Here, you can see that obviously I went for a push block here. I ended up leaking out to light punch, and I used IED for it. Mobius does not confirm that one into a CR. So I get to live a little bit, and I throw out a soul flash. That's fine. This isn't necessarily the best decision I could be making here. At this range, Mobius has never really threatened anything, so there's no reason for me to be doing this. But it is at least safe. So here, Mobius goes for a 2-medium punch, and I believe I actually pressed the button here. So he wants to go for a 5-medium punch, and I actually don't press the button at all. Okay, I completely hesitate, go for a jump, and that's why I got hit there. So here I finally realize what's going on, that I'm just kind of mashing buttons willy-nilly, not really doing anything with intent. So I take a minute to relocate myself, and I immediately go back into doing the exact same thing I was just doing, and kind of defeating the whole purpose. So here this works out, and again, as I've mentioned several times at this point, whenever I miss an LI, you already know what I'm going to be doing. And here I do get the air reset. I go for... What did I go for? I go for an LI. Apparently. This is a very ugly LI, but yeah, I'm a billion years late on this. And I'm already getting thrown by the time I started putting it. So obviously it didn't work out, and of course, because that LI didn't work out, well, I have to go for another one, and obviously that's not going to work out either. So at this point, this is a note I would want to write down. Stop LIing, stop panicking, or stop trying to overextend whenever you miss to confirm, or a potential LI. It's fine to just take the reset, just cut your losses, and live to fight another day. Here, I am very much not doing that. I'm still pressing buttons willy-nilly. There is no reason I should have gone for a 6-6 medium punch here. Given the range at which QB was at, this never hits. Ever. So here, I'm finally gonna get punished big time with this ESCR confirm into having to hold some of the most fucked up Oki in the game. And I somehow get out of that untouched. Unfortunately, I go for another bad decision here. Again, at this point, I have blown a very, very significant lead. I'm kind of just panicking at this point, just trying to do anything to get QB off of me. So I go for this, which obviously doesn't work. And now I'm forced to hold the exact same scenario that I very, very carefully maneuvered out of. And this time I don't. So this was a case study in poor decision making in the second half of this match. So at this point, we could kind of go back and see, well, at what point did this play start slipping off? And it was when I missed that earlier LI confirm. So a very big note I would want to write down to myself is that it's fine to just take the reset and just hold the loss. Because otherwise, if you keep making mistakes like this, that one drop confirm that should have cost you the game, that should have won you the game, is going to end up costing you the game. So some solutions I could come up for that is, it's fine to just, the thing I was doing earlier, for light punch to reset the neutral and just play a much slower game, just slowly win neutral. This match off started pretty slow, eventually turned into a very, very scrambly situation on my behalf. And that's obviously something I want to avoid. So it's fine to just kind of use micro dashes to realign myself, to buy room and get better positioning, so I'm not constantly forced into these really awful guesses QB puts you in. Something else I could do is maybe I can kind of just try to exert pressure a lot safer. So it's fine if I'm just getting straight hits, especially given how little HP QB had when I missed that confirm. It's fine to just kind of try to almost nibble and run in a sense, just kind of take these straight hits, eventually accumulate up. So here we go, game 3. This is the last one I'm going to be reviewing. So here, I could see I go for another jump in. Here I could see that my second hit, the grounded hit, is actually the one that got push block. So what I should be doing here is during the match, I could be taking note of that mentally and writing down, okay, so Mobius is push blocking me whenever I'm going for the grounded hit after the jump in. So something that might be effective as a form of mix-up is to go for a Zarashi and not immediately hit the 2 light kick after the jumping heavy punch, put a little bit of a delay there. That way I will catch the push block leak. So here again, because I have already seen as a player that Mobius isn't going to be really overextending themselves whenever they get a push block, I know that my dash in is a bit safer here. And I don't really like this spot that gets me in. So at this one, I go for a neutral jump to cover any type of offense. A little bit of a tick into it. But because I see that Mobius himself is also going to be H-jumping, I don't really want any of that. I don't want to deal with the mix-up potential you can get there with any IAD shenanigans. So I kind of just run away from that. Ultimately ends up being a pretty good play. So here I'm just playing a little bit of neutral, playing a little bit of neutral. Here I catch the recovery on her button. And as I mentioned earlier, when people get hit, it typically throws their push block rhythm off balance. Here you can see that Mobius tries to go for a push block and ends up leaking and catching my 2 heavy punch. Here, because I have a bit of a frame disadvantage, I'm approaching in a little bit more of a cautious way. I'm jumping in while chicken blocking, going for the jumping heavy punch, then tried and true, end up getting an air reset. Here, this is actually a little bit of a misplay at this point. There's no reason for me to up back here. And I actually do get punished for it because I go for the same thing again, and this time it's not going to work out. Some good blocking on my part. Nice wave punish there. And here I go for a little bit of a cheeky light here. I kind of expect the 2 medium punch, given that this is a position where I don't think Mobius is going to go for a 5 heavy punch, given the previous interactions, how they have played out. Given the spacing, I see that I'm just barely outside of 2 medium punch range, so I could try to contest it with a jump in, which is almost certainly going to be ineffective as QB is going to recover in time to block. I can also try to out button it, which is not something that is very easy to do, and it's not particularly high reward. So here, given that I'm pretty confident that Mobius is just going to go for a 2 medium punch, I'm kind of hard calling that out with this L light here. If I was wrong, then I probably won't need an immediate huge I won't immediately receive a huge punish. I might be forced to guess the IAD, but I'm pretty confident that I could deal with it, given how I've been blocking them up to now. Here, I go for the same very, very stupid Soul Flash. Somehow ends up working out in my favor. I just got lucky here. Again, that's a very stupid play to me on my part. And here, I just good old mistime the meaty. And QB is able to just jump out of my meaty. So here's Shirashi, pressure. Very, very bad to heavy punch, but I don't get punished for it. And those earlier soul flashes I was doing, which were hitting nothing, have now started to become effective. Here, to heavy punch into a soul flash to cover a potential BIAD. There's a reason I have been doing those, and this is the reason why. And here again, this is the 4th time, at least the 4th time that I've paused and commented on this, that I've gone for the exact same mix-up. I will always end up on the left hand corner. So instead of getting a tricky walk 50-50, I'm getting a tricky walk 100-0. So there's no mix up here. This is not threatening at all. And that's obviously a note I've already done that I need to work on. Again, here, I push myself into 5 medium punch range. I know this is Mobius's preferred range for that button, so I punish that preemptively. And here, again, tried and true in case Mobius wants to use the 2 frames of advantage they have after my 2 heavy punch to go in. Throw out a soul flash recover, and here I actually kind of predict that Mobius might want to IED or jump in, so I throw another soul flash out. I don't catch anything. Here I do get a trade. So once again, throw out a soul flash so that Mobius can't get out of the corner. I go for a throw and it ends up missing, but there's some bullshit that goes on with QB that lets me get this alive pretty safely. So what did I get here? So here I trade, and here I finally get with finish for a medium punch. I am able to recover in time to not eat a huge mix-up, and because I push block, I don't have to guess the IED. So here, playing a little bit of neutral. Not necessarily picking the best pokes, and kind of predicting Mobius to go for a jump eventually. I'm seeing that they're not really jumping at that range. Here, that ally I know is going to whiff. I could probably go for a better mix-up there. That's a good note I could be making here. Given this is a habit I know as a player I always go for this 5 beating kick after I do that advancing, which movement ally to keep my turn. So I know that typically if the player is a little bit more aware that I like to do that, then they're always just going to hold that block. If they're very confident that that's what the option I'm going to do, they'll probably just push block that, and it completely negates the reason I use that ally for in the first place, since I once again pushed out of spacing. So something I could write down a note here is I could go for a Zarashi 6-6 heavy punch, which may catch push block leaks if people are comfortable with that option. I could also go for a 6-6-4 or 6-6 light punch into a throw, intentionally whiffing that to get the throw, which is probably going to be untech'd if the opponent is actually respecting that option and isn't trying to push block it. So we have 2 options to cover both 2 different scenarios, both that complement that option very well. And those are options that I need to rotate into my play. And by noting down the weakness, like I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, it's something that I could very easily come back to and see, okay, has this problem been addressed? I have these solutions. Have I started implementing them into my play? If yes, then cool, move on to the next point. If no, then that's something I got to work on. So here I'm just playing a little bit of footsies. I can see that QB is pretty low on health, really any hit or 2 will close it off. So because of that and because of history, I simply know that chasing after that chicken block soul flash to get a guard break is sometimes a little bit on the risky end. So given that the overwhelming advantage in this situation is mine, I don't want to really risk anything that'll kind of negate that advantage. So I'm fine to just kind of hold it back, to go for a micro dash in to see what Mobius will do. Once I see him jump, I go for a soul flash just so that he can advance. Here, after that, that's a good play, but here I make a mistake by going for this 2 heavy punch. And I get this air throw, it gets tagged. I go for a poor option here. I just don't really have the frames to challenge anything, so I get 2 medium punch. Mobius goes for another 2 medium punch. Here, this is me doing 2 things. At this range, I'm pretty confident that QB is going to want to 5 medium punch. However, I am also out. The reason I'm confident is because she's not really in range of 2 medium punch, and at no point during the set has Mobius really shown that they're going to be IEDing at this range. So I go for a really safe 2 heavy punch to try to catch a 5 medium punch. I end up catching the 2 medium punch instead, and that is going to give me the game. And this is a much longer set, but I just kind of want to do a little bit of a insight into what I do whenever I actually, on the rare occasion that I actually sit down, lock in, and try to focus on a VOD. Obviously, I'd be taking a lot more notes because I'd be seeing the longer set. This is kind of just a little brief window into some of the things I'm doing. But again, you want to be taking notes, you want to be addressing problems as well as solutions. You don't just want to notate the problems, you want to write down what you could do to address them. And again, at the very start, I mentioned going the nuclear route and highlighting every single interaction. At this point in my level of play, I don't feel like that's necessary. I don't feel like that's necessary. I did it not too long ago. I don't really feel like I've hit another level or that I've plateaued. So that's not something I'm going to be doing right now. But if you yourself feel that you're kind of at a plateau and you're kind of stuck there, you haven't really improved that much, it's something that I recommend because it'll really highlight and put into perspective just how many flaws you might have as a player, how many issues you could be improving upon and addressing.